There we go. We are so comfy. Uh, why did my PC stop making noise when I went live? What? Anyway, welcome. Welcome back. Uh, another, another day. Wow, it's so wonderful. This thing of being, of of existing happens. So yeah. Anyway, uh, I don't know. I tried to have any real idea about what to say. I don't really have that much stuff. It's just, you know, sometimes sometimes you just think, and that's it. There are like so many things going on always that it's but I wouldn't say it's better. It's useful to at least try to think. Where was a chicken cross the road? Yeah, wait, what? Uh, why was a chicken? No, why? There are too many reasons. No idea. Also, good morning, I guess. Uh, wow. Um, uh, I, I I wasn't expecting that, but yeah. Uh, because the chicken wants to cross the road. Yeah, I mean that it makes sense. I cannot deny that. Probably if it does, it is because of something along those lines. It's sort of forced to cross the road. So in the end, it wants to cross the road. But there are always ways in which we can say the chicken maybe was afraid of what was going after the chicken. So, how stream? I literally, I literally just started. So, I think it's fine. I mean, no idea. Can what is it? Status check? I think so far it's going well. I think yeah. This past 5 minutes have been very good. Oh, oh. Okay, okay. Thank you for it. No problem. No problem. Why would he say that? It's. I mean, that's okay. Okay. I remember hearing something about that. Oh yeah, no, it's so annoying. People sometimes listen and they don't say anything else. I don't know, man. I think it's like one of the most necessary parts about having being live. It's something that requires somebody else on the other side, and then you don't need the other person to be 24/7 always trying to write something. You just need to be conscious that at the very least somebody is willing to be on the other side. It's complicated to say, oh yeah, if somebody else could be on the other side, but they decided to not say anything, isn't it? But no, I don't know. I think it's good. I mean, it's. I see it on the very same. Feels like it fits when I said it, but it feels confusing. There's no problem. When is it alright? Wait, what? No problem? What do you mean? No problem? Do I have a redeem that is called No Problem? Which one? Sorry that I don't really remember. Uh, no response? No problem? Yeah, I might be losing it. I don't. Also, I pinned something. Oh my god, I'm so good. I hate mobile. Sorry. I remember this exact sequence. No, I just want to pin. I don't want to delete the message. Thank you. Thank you. There it is. Sorry. Uh, I don't know. Redeem whatever you feel like redeeming whenever you want to do it. The redeems are there to use, so don't be afraid. Do whatever you want to do with them. If I haven't taken any of the ones that exist there down, it's because at least I don't mind people using them. So yeah, that's like a sort of good explanation. Whenever. That's short answer is whenever. So yeah. Thank you. But what was I trying to say? Yeah. I was on this whole idea of yeah, lurking is. I mean, it's called lurking. That action of just listening. I don't know. I wouldn't describe. Oh yeah, I go to my classes and lurk. I am just passively consuming what I am being taught. Let's say, but at the same time, as long as the other person is actively listening to what is being said, I find myself happy. I think, you know, getting to have the opportunity of just hearing somebody speak is nice enough. I don't know why people likes to make such a fuss about. Oh yeah. I don't get as much anything going on. I don't know, man. So sometimes we at least that's my opinion. I lately believe that we worry too much about everything. And I don't like that. I just do not find that interesting. I haven't. Okay. One of the many things I wanted to start with was I remember I came here last time and I kind of forgot to mention that or didn't find a way to properly fit any of that in what I talked about. And it was this idea of there is this degree of complaining that always happens that is so much just actively trying to find negative things out even what is good, what is useful to some degree, not what is the best thing in the world, not that we do not have the right to criticize stuff at all, but the need to completely dismantle everything just because it is a possibility to do so. I I don't feel like it's the most correct thing to say on one hand. On the other one, I I struggle a lot with trying to understand why some people seem to be so interested in arguing. I don't know, probably with themselves, with whoever is willing to listen. Let's say everything that they have around them. This needs to be constantly on the lookout for negative things, on what little certainty one gets to have about life. It's a hyper vigilant state and such a negatively coded mindset are always going on when it comes to living life. It's so. I personally find it weird. It would be better and it would be so much more interesting to just keep on trying to do what is to some degree nice, what is to some, yeah, to any kind of level, what feels good and what's cool to be at least made look good. That would be so much better than to just stay in a constant state of annoyance. I I see people. That's on one hand, I guess my issue. I see people that likes even to be like that, and not to say it in a negative way, but it's I just feel like that they cannot live if they don't have that surge of anger continuously. I haven't. I remember. I read. or I have been trying to read this guy who wrote. I don't know. I have two books. I am reading both of them, um, kind of simultaneously. He is very much in that same style of how many philosophers after Nietzsche decided to go with that prose in which you just have tiny ideas and you compile them into big, basically that, compilations of what you thought about. This guy has a lot of tiny scriptures that get compiled into bigger archival books for his stuff, and it was very interesting to see how in one of the mentions of this idea of anger, he was about how we like so much to do that because in the end you could have any kind of emotion drive your life. It's complicated to choose something else besides anger because you can place yourself inside of the anger and believe that it is the most basic form of life. In a certain way, the moment in which you are engaging with so much angriness towards the world, you get the pleasure of not having to find yourself or to find anything that is besides the object of your anger existent. You can you can allow yourself to have an excuse to turn off your brain. When you accept that you want to be angry, you have to also accept that you want to actively diminish what you are as a human being, so to speak. You are getting rid of an, at the very least, noticeable part of yourself when you just go on and forget that there are more things than just being angry about stuff. Not 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 that being anger itself is not bad. Anger itself is necessary. It's always every single kind of emotion to some degree possesses its usefulness. The issue is making any one of them take center stage is a negative trait. It's not fulfilling, I will say. It's just in the moment useful, but in the long run, best you can say that just having been angry for all your life, you look back and you can also find that as yet another reason to keep being angry about stuff that has happened or stuff that should have gone differently, but because you were angry, you couldn't have dealt with it in any other form. It's so I have been struggling, I guess, in that sense, trying to understand so many of those notions of why we move ourselves and how we decided to try and be. If in the end we're not truly interested in being, I I haven't. I guess that's that's sort of the truly main topic. Trying to understand what is the concept of being alive? That eternal question once again comes as the central focus of anything that I have been studying. Besides um, necessary stuff that I should be going through and things that I am kind of obliged to read if I want to approve my school. Everything else has some degree have that level of awareness, I guess, or interconnected to this main topic of, yeah, are we being all? What is being to begin with? What is existing? I guess, yeah, the eternal question of, oh my god, what is the purpose of life? Something beyond that, but at the same time, trying to understand that it cannot, it shouldn't be ignored. It is not a sensible thing to do to ignore the reality of, in some way, when we decide to abandon the need to question stuff that we experience throughout life, when we decide to abandon those unavoidable doubts that are brought forth by whatever it is that we see in this tiny life that we get to have, we are losing a little bit of ourselves. And in that same sense, it shouldn't be something so absurd to say, yeah, and I want to understand to some degree what is the other person trying to think out. Why is to some degree that someone else would be willing to act so different from what I would do in any given situation and whatnot. And it's always, to begin anywhere, useful concept is always, yeah, if you were to be someone else, if you had to compare yourself to someone else, the most rational expression of how you will end up taking the same choices that they did is to understand that if you had the exact same life up to that point, it will almost be an unavoidable action to take, no matter which kind of mentality you will believe you could have up to that point. If every other experience in your life that has already affected you was already given, you wouldn't be capable of truly going against it. Let's say, proper example, we cannot try to think out how rat would be capable of completely avoiding pain in a scenario in which they are given the possibility of doing so by just pressing a button, if in every other single instance, in every other previous experiment, what the rat was thought was that if they were to press the button, they will just get even more pain delivered to them. It, it isn't logical to expect complete outrageous differences in the actions that anybody takes. On that hand, it makes sense, but on the other one, it also is to some degree weird. It doesn't feel like I am observing people being. It's just that I am observing somebody who has already abandoned any kind of action, any kind of possibility besides the act of existing, let's say, besides the act of staying alive. Anything else lost to some degree the importance, so they just go on about being without ever considering that, yeah, what I am going to do today, what I am going to do tomorrow, what I already did yesterday, or I chose not to do yesterday, it's going to have an impact on my life, and it is going to be to some degree more or less useful to me based on the way in which I decided to act upon my whole surrounding world, let's say. And it's just this continuous need for action after action after another action of so many things that do not truly make sense when, even if that same person were to try and analyze why they are doing the things that they are doing, they would be capable of realizing that. I hate having to speak with people and ask them, why are you doing this thing? I have no idea. The response, I don't know. What do you mean? How can you forget that you are yourself? How can you forget that you have the possibility of ever, for 1 second, contemplating what you're doing? Deciding if the next action that you're going to take is something that you want or not. It's so, in that sense, it feels so annoying to see that. It's just, I'd like to be around people, or at least I wanna say that, but on the other one, I do not like to see how much we have started to abandon everything that has to deal with ourselves, so to speak. We are not truly experiencing life, or truly doing anything that we want most of the time. I mean, I get to have the pleasure of sitting here and speaking out whatever. And okay, my singularity is satisfied, but on the whole sum of the world, it doesn't mean anything. That I, that a very select handful of people gets to find some sort of pleasure doesn't mean that everybody is capable of finding that. I, I do not want to say that we are suffering. I do not think suffering is the most unavoidable sensation nowadays, or the most common sensation that everybody has to deal with. It's just the lack of true feeling. It's not numbness. It would be good even if we had just numb nothingness. We will be closer to something on one hand in this whole idea of playing with oppositions, and the main figure that is the nothing doesn't really exist without the acceptance of the complete opposite, that is the existence of something. And the closer we could be capable of getting to nothing is the closer that we can also be of having anything per, perturb that nothingness. No, we do not have nothing. We have absolutely everything that makes no sense. We have a whole world of things that do not serve any kind of purpose. And I remember, I do remember I tried to mention this some time ago already, and I said, yeah, we have some degree of just radio noise, white noise, and any kind of noise, every single type of noise, so that you can choose the one that you want to hear and to enjoy the most. They do not stop being noise. That's not the true conclusion. The point is a little bit beyond that, because I I went back to that same quote unquote final point. The reality is something wonderful happens most of the time when you are enjoying the noise, when you are truly invested in the noise, when it isn't grasping your whole self and consuming what the person who tries to actively watch the content. When that is possible, something very amazing happens, and it is we get to have a little bit of consciousness, slip in, be capable of going through the cracks of the boredom that gets created by the stuff. I remember I finally went back, and one of the many things that I read was, yeah, we are sort of doing a lot of damage to what are the current generations of children, and possibly we are going to keep even doing worse in terms of the future ones due to how we are allowing them to have so much contact with the technologies of the modern day, which do not give the brain any kind of rest. The necessity to have some kind of boredom, the necessity to have some kind of emptiness is what once again allows the possibility of the creation of something. If you cannot allow nothing to exist, if you cannot allow silence to be present in the life of a children, you cannot allow them to grow properly because you're removing from them such a necessary quality, such as just not having anything specific to do. They can always be doing something. We can always be ourselves doing something. The very same thing happens here with content. It isn't that we do not have, we only have a noise. We have noise that can only consume your whole self. But on the other hand, we also have sort of positive noise that isn't truly anything, isn't truly something that gets you anywhere. It's just a sort of entertainment for the eyes, while everything else that is related to the mind keeps going. It's one of the main principles of how we are supposedly capable of working is we truly aren't just what we actively think about. We also have the possibility of experiencing life through everything else that happens in the unconscious mind, which is the underlying level of consciousness itself, which the present cognitive capacity isn't capable of having. The possibility of introducing something that can allow you to, at the very least, deactivate the conscious level of cognitive ability is what allows the unconscious side to take the main place, so to speak. And it is more complicated to see that we can have those sort of things because we are starting to replace even what was before the most average sort of entertainment with every kind of hyper entertainment. We have, I remember hearing something about that not so long ago. Or, yeah, it was hearing something about that not so long ago. It was wonderful. Somebody was doing a study on how, for example, music has gotten louder. We have started to use a very limited degree of notes. We have, in some way, we have devolved from what was pure classical music. We have lost the essence of what was creating anything that you feel like doing for the sake of just having the most catchy stuff, the most acceptable by anyone sort of music, so to speak. Not in the sense of lyricalness, but rather of how even the melody is made, so that any single person from the world could be capable of saying, "Yeah, I like this," and it's how also at the same time, because the noisiness has been also increased. If you can decrease the level of awareness that the person gets to have while hearing something, if you make it such an in this case audible bombardment of their sensibilities through making it such a loud experience, you have to say that yeah, you made a good job. The person doesn't get to think about anything. They don't get to have a second of downtime. But I don't know. We sold 10 million copies, or we got 10 million reproductions. We did a good show. Supposedly, it's we're not truly getting less stuff. We're just over specializing on things that disable more and more what are the current probable types of very thinking, I would say. I think if I had to make any kind of assumption, conclusion is it does feel right now to say, yeah, we're kind of moving farther and farther away from what is this concept of being. We do not want to be. It has even become a negative thing to be aware that you are someone, to be aware that you have to do something. It's just we are trying to reduce life to the unenjoyable moments need to be experienced before getting to continue using any kind of hyper-saturated content and nothing else. That's why I do not feel so nice when I talk about it on the same hand. I see it in many ways. I have this theory of how we like so much to try and get everything. For example, one of the main goals of the whole race about games is trying to make everything look as nice as possible. And on the one hand, it really is possible to make things look nice just by being creative enough. The other 90% of the industry is just going to be looking as nice as possible by imitating life as much as possible. Because we do not have the capacity, not the time. We have all the time in our hands when we have 10,000 people working in our corporation. We have it, we have, what is it, 24,000 hour days, thanks to having so much time in our hands. We can dedicate every single person to try and find any kind of interesting idea. We have that much time. But the reality is, we do not have in itself time when it comes to trying and organize something, create anything. We can only go to the most basic solution. Yeah, we can just choose to imitate life, and that's it. We are going to make it look as nice as possible based on what reality looks like. And I don't know, I think everything in some way is moving towards the very same direction. I see the whole what gets the proper name of entertainment business, what are movies, series, and all of that stuff is on the same way that it's creativity is being slowly disappeared from the world. Doing anything creative is losing its meaning. I mean, I'm I'm pretty sure I could find something that before we wouldn't even consider creative nowadays being called something that if somebody were to do it is creative. Just because we are losing so much in any kind of thing. I mean, the most basic example is you wouldn't call creative somebody who used to just sit and think before. You look, I don't know, the generations of our grandparents, of the people who thought our grandparents, and so on and so forth. Back in time, we that wasn't creative, that was the norm. You had time to stop and think. Nowadays, you are being very creative and you are using your time very interestingly because you get to have the possibility of sitting down and you are using your. No, man, it was the norm. It should be the norm. Everybody should have the right to sit down and think if they feel like doing so. It shouldn't be something that, oh wow, yeah, I can't believe that. This person sits down and think that's crazy. I'll text. Also, welcome, flower. I don't know. I have been going. So, whenever you can, welcome. Sorry. Ah, but yeah, I don't know, man. It's so weird. On one hand, I do feel weird about that. I do not like when I have to hear it, this whole conversation of how, yeah, we are we are having more creativity. No, man, we're not having more creative people. We're having less and less anything happening in life, we're in a stage in which even the most basic degree of using your mind gets called creative. It's something so basic what we are experiencing. It should be, I wouldn't say noticeable by everyone. That's not the reality. Yeah, no, no. We certainly, we even, I mean, on one hand, I would say probably we do not realize. On the other one, probably this other sensible explanation about, even if we were to realize about the problems that exist in society, one of the easiest ways to not deal with them is to accept that they seem to be impossible to deal with to begin with. So, through a collective lie, we can say that, yeah, this issue does not exist, so we do not need to act upon it. Or even if we were to try and do anything about it, we couldn't be capable of solving it in any way. That feels more like the response. I think, I mean, I don't know. I keep talking with older people and I keep finding the same pattern in that way. I do not think people of the older generations are as unconscious as one likes to make them look. The reality is we have a good degree of awareness about what is wrong. We, don't- we are not capable of acting towards what needs to be properly solved. We can't in any way do that. We cannot allow ourselves to do that. It's too much, not a responsibility. In this case, responsibility is not the excuse. It is just too much friction, too much risk to try and solve something that will take an entire life. Is too risky in any way. But I don't know. Anyway, I, that wasn't exactly the point. Yeah, I say I don't have that much to think about. Yeah, I do. I have 1,000 things to think about. But yeah, anyways, I think it was around. I think I lost my train of thought around, or I deviated from it around this whole idea of, yeah, yeah. Even the most mundane degree of just mind, having a mind and using it has been called now creativeness. And I don't. I certainly do not like it. I mean, I wouldn't be here talking about it if I found that nice. Or, yeah, that's like too much work to do. I don't feel like trying to deconstruct the other side of that, of what I am saying. And yeah, too much work. Somebody in the future might be capable of picking up, yeah, yeah. Whenever you try to express something, in the other hand, the complete opposite might also be a possibility. Once again, in this this idea of how we can have both meanings exist, or make it look like they exist at the same time. Only one of them is truly valid, or how, even though it is not an active lie, the way in which you make something look to not seem so affected by it, or so inclined in favor or against something, but still mention that at any capacity is what allows yourself to hide what are you trying to say. Maybe the point I was trying to say with this whole explanation, maybe somebody in the future hears what I say and says, in reality, just like anybody else, it would be a wonderful reality to have the possibility of conversing with other people and hearing, yeah, indeed, we are abandoning what is the action of thinking. We are abandoning what is the action of having to deal with the responsibility of our consciousness. So we can keep living a life in which we have every single day to deal less and less with what is the quote unquote painful part about life. So in some way we're needing an utopia just because we get to have less and less to deal with the current main source of most problems and pains and whatnot. But yeah, too much work, and I'm not the guy to do that. To begin with, that's that's like a whole different argument. So yeah. Anyway, just wanted to say this. I mean, let me picture it this way, or structure it this way. I think something that has been happening, we're slowly losing the capacity to be capable of rec- recurring to even the most basic level of thinking. One of the worst consequences of that is because we cannot be capable of thinking, we're not even capable of critically thinking. One quote unquote more complex level of trying to think out stuff because we cannot be conscious about the level of plausible, I think it is the word, of plausible consequences that anything might ensue the moment in which we realize that what we are dealing with might not be either as good or as bad as we think it is. So, by discarding critical thinking, we're entering more and more into an era, let's say, in which we're having more and more possible problems that could be realized if we were to try and think about them. But either, on one hand, that is one of the issues. We have so many things being created at such a fast pace that so many of the new inventions are completely out of touch with the whole population of the world, so to speak. This whole idea of how, so to speak, the academia and the scientific world has been capable of circling back to itself and becoming a very much closed, what is it, institution. Both of them have become very gated institutions because it is impossible to access them unless you are willing to utilize so much of your time in favor of trying to enter or go through the whole rite of initiation that is required for you to acquire all the basic knowledge that would allow you to converse with the people in that same environment. We're having too many things exist in the current world which are not useful, not because they are by themselves not good, because the consequences that might come with having them are not being properly observed by anyone. If the people who could be trying to do that, if the average person doesn't understand anything about what they have around them, cannot realize several of the problems that exist about the products that they have in their hand, how can the people who are just reaping the most instantaneous benefits try to go against that? It is becoming more and more, I would say, a society, or not just one society, the whole world is allowing itself to become dominated by a very tiny group of people who are all only trying to aim for their own gains, not because we are just egoistic and all of that kind of overly basic explanation. It's just because we are not willing to try and think how it should be a process of education for everybody. Everybody should be capable of getting properly taught all the things that they have around them. Where for still we do not have a properly solid, consolidated way of teaching anything. We do not have the time to properly find how to give people as much information as possible. One of the main issues that I have been still trying to think about is how can we think about the stuff that we are capable of thinking? This whole, I think it was the epistemological question. How do we think about the stuff that we think about, or how can we reach understanding in general as a notion itself? That same thing is getting abandoned, not because the people doesn't want it. Everybody will. If you ask anybody, anybody wants to know stuff, be it of any kind of field. The issue is we're not developing anything properly because once again you look back and you do not have an open field in which anybody can participate. You have a very closed on itself in which only people who are already validated by others who also validated the previous generations and so on and so forth of this institution called the educational system, the scientific system. All of those things are only there to justify their own existences, not to add to the whole group. Nowadays, in most cases, there are certainly some other wonderful sciences, but even then, what is good ends up being damaged due to how many of the current models that we have about ideas and whatnot are not at all useful. Uh, now, problem. I talked too much. I, at the very least, I understood it a little bit better myself, I guess. But yeah, I mean, that is quite a lot to unpack. Hmm, okay, the most basic level is it true? One hand, yes. On the other hand, no. The reality is one of the ways in which it tries to regulate itself. Like, I mean, many institutions seem to be in that way. The illusion, if nothing else, the illusion of anybody could try to participate with us, that allows any person who is willing to go through the whole rite of initiation itself, is just to gain enough validity by the people who are already validated by previous generations. That degree of actual proficiency at being part of that group and being capable of doing what that group specializes in. One of the main tasks that, or one of the main creations, what is it? One of the main subtexts that reign any kind of institution is that they design themselves in a way in which not anybody can participate in them. They separate and specialize because it is necessary to have a proper enough degree of credibility. If you cannot have credible enough things, anybody can come tomorrow and alter the wholeness of reality, so to speak. It will be a much more violent way of existing if we have no possibility of having this whole method of verifying ideas. So on that hand, it's wrong to say that yeah, nowadays we're in a bad position. It was since that, since its conception itself, how we go about ideas, and we have never truly shifted about being egocentric or not. We you look back, main instinct, main four instincts, five, five. We are not talking about the fifth one, but fight, fly, Paris, fight, flight, Paris. There is another one that I'm forgetting. Besides the fifth one, which one is it? I cannot believe it. I should know them by completeness. I think they were only four. Probably they were only four. Maybe they were only four. And the fourth one is the one that I do not want to mention. Perhaps. You know what? It's wonderful, wonderful thing. We have internet in our hands. I can Google that myself. Let me see. Yeah, they were five. Phone? What the hell is phone? Ah, phone is like, yeah, I never in my life heard that word. Certainly I can say phone. Isn't what? Ah, phone. Okay, phone is like trying to please them instead of anything else. Phone is kind of submitting yourself to the fear compared to Paris, which is just that. What the? I, I should know. What? Anyway, um, every single day you learn something new. Wonderful. Continuing with what I was trying to say, uh, if you try to trace it back to those responses, since the way in which those things were designed, basically, how we learn to exist. Either you fight, you fawn, you fly from the scene, you freeze from fear. In any kind of configuration of that, it is still about your survival. There is no subject without understanding that you need to try to preserve your own life, and in some way or other, the way in which you can create higher degrees of complexity about the whole current world in which everybody has to live in, so to speak, this whole stuff of, oh yeah, we all have ideas. So something wonderful that happens is we all have to deal with the ideas of other people. We also have to deal with the previous ideas of people who already came before us and who seem to be established around the whole world in which we inhabit. So, if nothing else, I will try to make sure that the way in which I create my surroundings, I enable things to be capable of sustaining myself. It is not an unexplainable thing that even in the highest degrees of richness or whatever, you see people who are still so much a basic level functioning of, oh yeah, I need to be capable of surviving. I need to have this resource the most because Otherwise, I might not be capable of surviving. It is still the same thing. We have you have created things that we cannot truly understand. It's this whole concept of how can you expect a children of 5 years to understand the idea of money? They cannot do that. To some degree, yeah. This is what I also tried to mention before, and what I had to some degree properly realized the other day. There is this thing called basic concept, inner children. Everybody, to some degree, no matter how much you grow up, you still retain your inner children, your inner children. The wonderfulness is that you have some part of yourself still be functioning in the most basic way of consciousness that any children has, no matter how old or young you are. Because the reality is, you only build up enough concepts to live in the current world, to understand what supposedly is an adult, and to understand the ways in which the behavior of an adult should be, so that you can act in accordance with the model of adult that you have in your mind. The issue is, there are many ways in which you can detect still, so to speak, the existence of these same inner children, because there are cracks that anybody has. There are tiny momentaneous responses to stuff, even those sudden smiles towards things, those I don't know. I think the best way is always that tiny, so to speak, sleep that happens, a tiny smile that exists when you hear something like something so basic as that is capable of making the inner children resurge or resurface because it never leaves. The issue is you lose sight of this concept. You lose sight of many other things that are related to that. You cannot explain how we, we, we exist if you cannot realize that to some degree it is still the same thing. We are still that very same creature. You put a human of, I don't know, 5 years next to somebody who has 20 years, 40 years, and besides the biological factors which are only modifiable by reality, the factor of how many abstractions they have already created and they stacked one upon another is not something that you can in any other way measure. There is no proper way to talk about that. There is no, we have still nowadays not created any way in which we can say, yeah, this person is more developed in their mental abstractions out stuff. That cannot happen in any way. I think so. I don't know. At this point, I'm trying to connect everything that I haven't talked out so far. Yeah, okay. I think it was basically, it's to begin with anything. Main theme, you have that those handful of issues, those handful of things that are related to how we see the world. On the other hand, also sadly, being a grown-up doesn't really mean much besides being biologically mature. How many things you can understand or not is not truly modified by your age. At best, besides being in the prime of your age, in which it is certain capacity called neuroplasticity and this other degree of forms of acquisition of knowledge that are more related to crystallized and fluid memories and whatnot, having to deal with this whole other stuff that is related to how your brain loses cognitivity and whatever. Besides all of that, reality is people just learn more about things. We get to have more knowledge about the stuff. On one hand, on the other, only happens in very particular groups, about very particular things. Not everybody gets to know everything about the world. We are not having. Certainly, it would be on some on a very logical sense, not to some degree. On the most logical sense, it will be very stupid to not allow people to specialize in what they feel they are good at doing. The reality is, because we are allowing it so much, we get to have so many fields in which so many ideas are already stacked one upon another since so long ago that the level of entry for most people is incredibly far away. Most people cannot do the work to understand what they have around them because, once again, the surrounding pathways that are necessary to be created through the acquisition of abstractions is something that takes an entire life, so to speak. And people don't even have a quarter of that time in some cases. We cannot ask that out the whole population. And in that side, at that point, it would be a reasonable explanation to say that, yeah, and people just get to suffer more because reality is you cannot even try to begin where you need to understand the stuff from to get to live a reasonable life. So at the very least, you are given also the solution of you can numb your pain. The pain created by being alive, you can numb it by distracting yourself by everything else that we can also create. And at the very least, if nothing else, you can participate in the industry of entertainment, in the industry of being capable of consuming, and in this whole enterprise that is not being. That is kind of a quick summary about everything else. Uh, it so certainly on one hand it's bad to say it, but on the other one, wow. I need some water, man. Holy, holy, holy Christ! How much? Sometimes I can when I don't give up on that activity, I can indeed think about this stuff. What a wonderful capacity. Ah, I guess I don't know. I would probably say yeah. People should do it so much more. What a fun thing to play with concept. What a fun thing to make sense of the world. To make things click. That's something funny. My god. Anyway. Also, as a completely different side note, I realize my microphone has like an incredibly huge range of noise pickup. It was hitting me despite me being like 3 meters, 4 away from the mic. It was crazy. I was like, wow. Probably the biggest issue is that I don't have it connected to a proper, what is it, audio interface or whatever. Probably not. Probably the real issue is that I don't know anything about audio balancing. So anyway, um, one day I will take advantage completely of this mic. Continuing, I guess. Oh. Yeah, I wasn't expecting to no, I can't continue so easily. I wasn't expecting to say so much stuff in like just 1 hour. My brain something that happens many times after I'm finished here. My brain hurts. Right now it does. Also, yeah, yeah, I cannot just, I cannot just blame that. I also, I have been finally, if nothing else, I have been continuing with my study, so that's wonderful, I guess. But oh, man, what a what a thing to be alive, I guess. I don't know. What a thing to do that's the stuff that makes you feel happy besides the most basic degree of satisfaction, I guess. But yeah, ah, the moving on. Sorry, after like 5 minutes of trying to recover from that, um, I don't know, something else. I guess that's the conclusion. Probably I could write something about that. I have, yeah, finally write something else about the stuff. It was also Discord. What? Uh, welcome. But yeah, I was. Let me go into that. I remember I was hearing one of the many classes I had to about this guy. This one of the teachers who it was very funny to hear him talk about how he liked so much the whole process, while on the other hand, he had to suffer so much due to how much he needed to read the stuff. The guy had, I think, like four different complete titles. He was like one, I guess, in one of the people who has learned the most about a certain very particular degree of topics. And it was very, very amazing to know that I was close at all to that human being, so to speak. But on the other hand, the degree of reading that you have to do to understand stuff is so tiresome, man. I, I just, on, I said before, I do not know if I am just questioning it because it's a reasonable question to ask, or in the other hand, if it is just a lazy, so to so to speak, excuse to have at hand whenever you do not feel like doing things. You can say, yeah, yeah, the whole system is the issue, not me personally, who is complaining. And at the best, you can do something wonderful, even more nowadays, where we are so complacent with ourselves. We have a lot of people who complains. I wouldn't be surprised. Something wonderful that I do not like to search people who are similar to me. I'm pretty sure it would be pretty negative to hear somebody else say the things I do. I on one hand, it's bad. I know it's, so to speak, a bad thing to be so against everything. If it were to be more articulated, probably it would be better. But I still cannot shrug off, so to speak, that sensation of no, yeah, it's just whining. Because you do not get to have good ideas if you do not get to understand the stuff about things at all. Not that normal people do not get to have good ideas at all. That's not what I said. The complete opposite, something wonderful. I already mentioned that before. Something wonderful that happens, you can always see how many nice things people could be capable of speaking about. Because even the most average looking person has used a lot of their time to, at the very least, think about one particular thing. The issue is getting, so to speak, the person to come out of their shell. But anybody knows about something, even if it is the most over a specific thing, enough to talk about for it. or to talk about it for hours on end. It, the point is not that nobody can have good ideas if they haven't read any books on their life. That's I guess that will be some sort of, it has a proper term. I think it is intellectual racism, something like that. I remember I had to read about it even on, what is it? It's a whole subject on anthropology. That's what I had to hear about that anyway. Point I was trying to make. Um, yeah, it's so incredibly crazy. I guess it's just, you have to ask yourself many times stuff, and I don't know. I think that's what I am trying to get at. People are just forgetting how necessary it is to question things, to be capable of realizing that, yeah, you cannot be sure about anything. To some degree, something useful is to not be so sure about the stuff that you are doing. You cannot be capable of evolving if you're not realizing that there is still something that you could be doing better in to begin with. It's the basic principle of that applies to everything. I do not like how complacent the average person has become about this stuff, to leave everything else behind. The world doesn't get a better place if you just give up on it, so to speak. If you just say, "Oh no, yeah, it's too complicated to do anything," it's just that whole, I guess, discourse on a bigger scale, to not make it sound like that, I guess. But it's basically that. The average person, if they were capable of doing something, anything at all, they would be wonderful. Issue is, the average person cannot realize how good they could be at anything, because the necessary, and that's what I was trying, not exactly to mention, but trying to get at with, where they do not have a proper way of learning about this stuff. You go to any kind of a school nowadays, and you do not come out as a person who knows how much capable they are about this stuff. You just know that there are problems in this world. You know that there are things that you might be good at. Nothing else explained. Just you need to apply for something. You need to get your life solved as soon as you can, to avoid having issues and nothing else. You're, so to speak, forced into a life of polarities. There is only having a good life or having a bad life. There is no middle point. There is nothing else that allows the average human to enjoy being without the restraints of anything else so much. It's this whole way of trying to act out the stuff that makes it harder in any way, because you don't get a way to see stuff just by following the, so to speak, path that has already been laid in front of you by people who tried with the best of intentions to make sure that you don't hurt yourself and whatever. You don't get to be somebody in life. So many people end up finding themselves that, yeah, I am nobody. It makes complete sense that most people do not get that pleasure. And I don't know, we have 1,000 different things that we forget to talk about. It's no wonder that there are so many issues. I mean, yeah, I don't know. That's, at this point, it's a completely different discussion, I guess. But it's just weird, I guess. Giving about everything isn't truly making life better. Giving about the world because only you can keep yourself safe and nothing else isn't truly making the world a better place. It's just arguing against the world to at least preserve your life. That is good enough. But the reality is, most people don't get to feel that and nothing else. Unavoidable conclusion. Nothing else is good. I am the only thing that makes sense on this world. I myself am valuable of existing. Unavoidable level of self-awareness. Is what I am saying true or not? Most people question that. Most people have to deal with the level of I cannot even feel like no matter what I do, the world will be a better place. How can I say that my existence is an unavoidable conclusion? Yeah, you know what? Time to remove myself from this world. I don't know, man. I don't think it is such an unfollowable conclusion to understand to some level why we have so many problems in that sense nowadays. It's not a nice discussion or whatever, but that's the reality. We have too many things going on in too many directions, except the useful ones, and not besides the point of, oh, yeah, my subjectivity dictates that this thing is nice. The reality is, we're starting to lose too many things, man. I think there are too many. One, yeah, I already talked about it before. There are too many wonderful minds that are getting lost in the way because what should be a world that should be capable of allowing them to be isn't giving them the proper tools to do so. It's just a rough education and nothing else. And I guess I cannot avoid to draw a simile with this whole story of how in the past we used to have what was it? I think it was the Vikings. It comes to my mind as Vikings. Vikings used to have a rite of initiation of we throw the kid onto the river. If they survive, they can then become grown-ups. Most certainly, they can become men. So, at the very least, if they become men through that, they are apt to live in this world. And if nothing else, they have failed, and it isn't our responsibility that they didn't know how to swim at all. It is their problem because they weren't capable of adapting to that same situation. The same thing happens here. You grow up, you are thrown into the world. You have to deal varying to some degree, certainly. Either you grow up and you have to deal with the whole weight of responsibility, with the whole weight of law. You are not even biologically mature, but already at around 21, 18, 16 years old, you are told that you are a grown-up citizen and the way in which you should conduct yourself becomes so strict that most people do not get to understand what are the consequences that might come with doing bad things or why certain things are called bad. It's just this whole myth created around being a grown-up has become such a thing that nowadays most people do not even get to enjoy a proper young life or time in which they do not have to be so strict with themselves. It is always the wariness of having to grow up into a proper grown up so that you do not fail inside of the system. I mean, something that is. I am not saying anything new or anything that anybody should be surprised with. Something like sales are such a failure, and everybody is capable of realizing that. If you had to go to jail, probably the moment in which you ended your sentence, Even more if it was a long one. You will not be capable of reinserting yourself into society. So you live with so much fear about doing something bad from the moment in which you learn about those things from such a young age that unavoidably you do not grow up to be a, a free child of the world. You grow up to be a grown up who knows what is right and what is wrong and can follow that path, nothing else. The wondrous ignorance and the bliss that is to be so intrigued by everything existing in the world gets destroyed or at the very least suppressed by the necessity to watch yourself so much. Let's say it that way. Uh, so yeah, I don't know. I think I think it does it shouldn't feel like that, but I feel probably if I if I continue, so, something that happens. Yeah, I remember hearing about it very recently. This guy, what was it? Uh, how systems tend to just involve themselves. What I mentioned, ways of thinking that are only surrounded by themselves. Only that at some point, probably only I myself understand what the fuck I'm talking about. So, on a completely different note, trying to find a common thread. I was I was I was reading about this guy. Uh, he was talking about how production should happen, and I had been already reading quite a huge lot, trying mostly to find not actively trying to read about it, but certainly the moment in which I stumble upon something that is minimally related to writing, it does make sense that I just see how it can be used to justify having to write anything of the stuff that I have at this point. I don't know, a dozen times promised I will try to write. And he says something very interesting. One of the best ways in which you can understand writing is when you get to test your knowledge based on the whole surrounding ideas of what you're writing. Certainly, instead of this whole field of academical knowledge and whatnot, and you get to pass your creation for something that fits within the system itself of knowledge, you made a proper creation, and it is a rite of passage of a certain degree that anybody should be capable of going through, besides just the masters and the titles and whatever that requires you to innovate within that field. The reality is anybody should be capable of finding some will to create something, because no matter how much you are incapable of seeing it yourself, many ideas that we get to have about things that we spend enough time about thinking can in some way have an impact on the world. Issue is being capable of articulating that with a proper degree of awareness about what is the objective reader, the other person who might have to deal with what you're trying to say, besides the mental lexicon that you carry, and besides the just internalized dialogue that you can properly carry out within yourself, having to deal with what other person thinks and what other person is capable or not of understanding is a lot more complicated than just thinking for yourself. So that's one thing. On that's one thing, one topic about writing. On the other hand, also very fun thing continuing with the guy that I was trying to read, I tried to mention that earlier. I ended up losing my train of thought there, or going towards a different direction, I guess. Uh, Very fun thing. Writing is also very much a creation made out from passion, even if it is certainly related to the highest levels of very specific stuff. When you get to sit down and write out what you want, it should be recognized that doing so is something that allows you to express things, not in a poetic way in which only you get to experience the happiness and no, the fulfillment of the desire that is to try and do something that feels good is only enacted in the moment in which you get to realize that what you are writing, very much in line with what I said before, is understandable by everybody else. Proper writings are something wonderful because they can be then picked up by anyone who is willing to acquire your lexicon. But the most beautiful of them is those who any single person can get. The issue is being capable of being honest to yourself to talk about anything, do such a thing of simplicity while also going on about whatever it is that you like. That's the issue. And understanding how much time you will need to sacrifice and whatnot. So, I don't know. What I was trying to get with that, I guess, yeah, just a very incredibly long way to say, yeah, I think this time for real, I won't lie about, yeah, yeah. I will try to write something. I think I haven't with that story in hand since last year. This year for real, for real, for real. But anyway, I don't know. I didn't expect to talk that much, so I am satisfied. That's what I can say. Thank you. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Let me. You know what? Also, scene. Good evening. Altest? Why do people write Altest? Are those two different emotes? Something funny happens on screen when you write Altest? What? Anyway, uh, I was going to say I will reconsider, I guess, if nothing else. If okay, yeah, I will reconsider if I continue. No, the issue is, so wanted to see what it does. What are the emotes? I can't see them myself. It's not fucking over. Anyways, I didn't say welcome, Sim. I hope you're well. Uh, yeah, what I was. Yeah, I have to take go to an idol meeting. That wonderful expression. Uh, give me 1 second. So yeah, please. Also, the cable of the mic isn't hitting with anything. Despite that, when I move, it makes noise. I hate this. It's hitting with itself. I guess I don't know. It isn't even. No idea. Too much brain power that I don't have right now to explain it. Let me take the quote unquote leave. 1 second. Uh, Why are people? Eh, good evening. We are so comfy. Ah, yeah. I also missed myself, so that's why we are here. Comedy Golden. Anyways, I data reef. You see the waterfall? It's like an still image, brother. You see it? Sorry. Ah, I think that's part of the process. Anyway, uh, I found two things to say. One was something that I wanted to say before. The other one completely unrelated. Uh, Yoshi always said trust the process. Certainly, you always trust the no, probably not. As long as you're fine with it, you trust the process. Or as long as you're interested in the final goal, I guess, that's when you trust the process. Uh, yeah, I still have to learn metaphors and whatnot. One day I will be capable of saying, because, there are also some processes in which you might lose something very important to you at the end of it if you were to commit to it, and it will hurt a lot, and there is no win at all. Certainly, those times you don't trust the process, you just abandon the process. Fucking. You make me fucking get up, man. Yeah, this full story of how I don't even see close to the PC lately. What the fuck is this? Is does Hiroshi get far away from the PC when they stream? Mine does. Because I'm my own fucking Oshi. Wow. What an egoistic guy. What an egotistic. Anyway, uh, it was just me making time to add the riff. There you go. Thank you. Ah, Obre. Still, I over 30 riffs in me. Good luck. No problem. Thank you. I mean, there is no timer, so I have to do it manually, and I don't feel like getting up from here, so. We'll have this guitar for a long time, brother. What? I don't know a scene. It's. Okay, no, yeah. I have something. I do have something. I do have something. No. I didn't say that. What the fuck? I didn't say I was going to scam you. Please chill. Flower, you should trust more in yourself. You're capable of a fucking lot. I think it hurts a lot to see the real foreign words that you have. You can do wonderful things. It feels bad to say it on one hand because it's a lot of the responsibility of people who trust in you, certainly. But on the other one, you can do great things. If nothing else, do them for yourself. Thank you. There you go. But yeah, I don't know. I there it is. Yeah, I no problem. Let me. You know what? Let me get back. Okay, we're so comfy. I. Bro, what a fucking nice guitar riff. It becomes less and less common. Ah, But I think at this point, I think our it as like such a fucking comfort melody. It's so good. And I think it has like 5 years that piece of audio at this point. I did have it before streaming and all of that, so ah, time passes too fast, and I don't like that. I don't like that. Can we please slow down the clock, Mister Time? Can we go slower? Can we not have to deal with every day being 24 hours and every minute and every hour being 60 units? I mean, anyway, completely anyway. Life is short. The world is spinning too fast. On one hand, yeah, but I mean, it, I don't know. I do agree a lot with that vision of one of the main problems of being immortal is you have to deal with being immortal. You have it all the time in the world. You can always procrastinate like that. At least here we get to have. Uh, is it the proper way to see it? But you get to have the excuse that tomorrow it might not come, so you have to do stuff. If you had every single second of the universe available to you, there is no point in doing stuff today. You can always leave it to tomorrow or to the next millennia if you feel like that. So yeah, in that sense, I don't feel so that it's going faster. I mean, even so, the nice times are still so nice, and there are a thousand different opportunities to experience seconds that feel like hours in the experience of life itself. Getting to go through those nice moments, conversations, and I mean, even those times of reflection itself, in which you allow yourself to be in the moment in a proper way, is nice. So I I don't think so far I can say, oh yeah. At some point the weight is too much or you come down. Yeah, I mean that's the problem. Trying what is it? Trying to not go hollow is complicated, as they would say. But I don't know. Everybody struggles with that to some degree, so it's not like it's bad to find solace in the knowledge that also other people are struggling, but the reality is it would be so much fucking worse if nobody else but me was having to deal with the problem of being alive, let's say, you know. So that's good. That's wonderful. ah, having the possibility of seeing others also deal with existence is nice. It's that reminder that even in one mortal life, the loss might be too much that you lose your attachment to humanity. I mean, I would. On one hand, yeah, or I mean, if I don't understand it wrong, we are trying to talk about the death of someone else, no? That's just to be on the same point. We are talking about having to experience the loss of someone else, I guess, because I can see that, but at the same time, no problem. But the reality is, I don't like how much we like to avoid talking about such things. I remember, yeah, one of the things that I had to assist the other day was this whole conference about a woman who talked about her experience. And one of the main things that somebody else was capable of pointing out later on was how she never mentioned central topic of her whole conversation. Somebody had died. She had to go through the whole experience of that. She never said the word death. You cannot be so separated from something that is unavoidable from reality. That is, if nothing, the only certainty that you have is you are going to die. It's not so bad to know that. I don't think it's so bad to know that to some degree there is some rest at the end of the tunnel, if nothing else. Not trying to romanticize the idea of death or whatever. The point also is not to become completely hopeless or whatever you want. It's just it's not so distant from reality. It's something that we have all to experience, and it's just that. It's just a part of the process. It's on one hand, I do feel bad that I have lost so many things. I have lost people. I have lost the possibility of enjoying my time alive with other people because only I kept to be alive. They didn't. True. Realities. They don't have to deal with the pain. There is so much pain that comes with being alive. The process of having to deal with the negative things that one experiences through life, the many dangerous things that you learn about, this whole idea of cognitive hazards, the amount of cognitive hazards that you face throughout a year, the amount of things that just because you became aware about them make living a little bit harder unless you're capable of struggling with it, of properly fitting it into how you see everything else is complex, brother. You don't have to deal with that anymore. I cannot promise you anything, but you don't have to deal with that anymore. That's what I can say. That's what I can say. I don't know what happens, just that that is the only thing we are capable of proving about it. There is no way you can come back, and every single physical function stops. So, if anything, the soul as whatever you want to represent it as doesn't have to deal with the issues of being in that sense. That is not so bad. That is only a pain for those who have to keep living, but at the same time, if you didn't have the possibility of understanding that one day you will be gone, it is eternal torment. That is when it becomes bad. That is the moment in which you also become hopeless because there is no point in which the punishment that comes from your thoughts becomes something else, becomes the possibility of making the time that you have left worth living, and the time that you can also share with others worth making good. It's just everything is going to be bad from here until the infinite existence. If the universe ends, whatever comes after that, all of that will still be pain. So no, man, I don't think that is that bad. Issue is making it sensible enough to not feel so hopeless, I guess. But I don't know. We do not talk about that. One social taboos. We do not talk about that because talking about that, I even more once I'm romanticizing the concepts that come with that is a dangerous idea. And sadly enough, that one I cannot lie about. If you make it look too nice, you can say, oh yeah, dying seems better than living. No. No. That wasn't the point. Anyways, continuing with something completely different. Not first and foremost. I have also become quite accustomed to the silence, so let me change the fucking guitar. How much I Anyways, there we go. Yeah, thank you. Welcome back, dear clock, my beloved. Anyways, I was trying to walk into what the only two things I was capable of thinking about in that tiny quote break. One thing, something, something that I did want to mention, and I kept forgetting about. It's something that has been making me angry. The other day, I went outside my house. It was night. I went out and we had like a night of a moon. I don't remember the term, even less I do it in English. So a night of a moon when it is just starting to appear. That's nice. Issue. I was capable of seeing the whole roundness of the moon, not only the clear, white, visible, bright part. Everything. We are having so much fucking light contamination. I remember hearing about it before. In a more sensible manner, in a more understandable manner. Something very true. We didn't have that many problems before. We didn't have that many issues in the sense of the lights weren't so strong. And I remember, I don't exactly get to remember the context, but the line of when you realize how bright the nights used to be before, when you realize how beautiful the starry nights were, when we didn't have this much light contamination as we do nowadays, it makes a lot more sense why we had so much a connection with stuff compared to nowadays. And I think, if anything else, it is in that same way with many things. I don't think it's bad that we have developed ourselves. It's just we do not look back. I do not like how we do not look back in that sense. It's just desensitization about stuff that makes it bad. Not realizing how good things or why things were the way they were, even if it was completely stupid, something like, yeah, doing sacrifices to the stars because our deities made us believe that that was the only reasonable way for us to get better crops. Certainly not good. The issue is, you cannot just forget everything that makes you. We are not really going anywhere with so much speed. The same thing of how we the world feels like it is always moving faster. That is like a unavoidable sensorial experience. The degree of information that you experience every single day feels shorter because the capacity to realize synapses between neurons gets slower, so it takes you more time to process stuff. Objectively speaking, that's the main reason why something like a child feels like their first years are so eternal, and the older you are, the less time it takes you to feel like a day has passed, because you are objectively speaking slower in some ways. But it doesn't justify letting go of everything. It doesn't justify, once again, what I said before, it doesn't justify in any way being self absorbed. I think we're forgetting the factor of we still live in a world with other humans. It hasn't been that, oh wow, yeah. Technology allows you to not be with other humans at the best, something funny that happens is, oh yeah, we have people that doesn't socialize, quote unquote. The reality is, socialization has evolved into newer forms. The ways in which people get at least the replacement, that is, to do stuff through social medias and to do the act of socializing through games, through these platforms that might not be exactly through their main representations, through what they are exactly in real life, but you still get to be something, and you still get to be around other things that seem to be people. It doesn't work in a way in which nothing is understandable like that. It's just something that takes time to properly put into place. But we seem to be against that. That's what I wanted also to kind of mention before. We cannot do ourselves the favor of thinking about anything, because trying to do so itself is a question of it takes too much effort. How can you allow yourself to have nothing going on? And I don't know, it's in that same line, it is still the same thing as funny thing. We need probably at not exactly right now, but at the pace at which we are moving, in the direction that we are going, probably we are going to need to properly learn to every single human being lessons in time management and downtime, offline time, no activity time to recover. If you see yourself as a machine, okay, time in which the machine needs to do self maintenance, if nothing else. It's we are getting things wrong. We are not really moving towards anywhere in that sense. But that was my commentary. That was what I wanted to say. Thank you. Closing idea. Also, because on one hand, I wish I could go 1,000 hours. I can't. Humanly speaking, okay, realistic number 5. Let's say 5. Issue is tomorrow is Monday. On Mondays I have fucking classes. So yeah, final idea. So, something that I realized, or yeah, I was gonna say not the other day, kind of the other day, kind of a long time ago, kind of also recently. There is something in the lines of getting to speak about what you want, correlated to this idea of bottling up the things that you wanna talk about. This whole idea of you get to do what you like and you get to do it in a way in which you feel nice about it. The issue is you're not being capable of being honest to yourself in most times, so you don't get to experience things in a way in which it feels like you are truly using your time in a meaningful way. This inside of what context? Until that it was just generalizations. Okay, inside of which context? It feels like in many ways something wonderful that happens is we do not get to have proper conversations with people because there are many things that need to be said along the lines of just basic procedure. Nothing else but basic procedures that need to be fulfilled every single time. The area of rituals that we have instilled between ourselves is too much. The reality is we also have too much limited time and we have incredibly busy lives to be capable of finding instances like these ones to properly enjoy it. If I had to say it in a different way, remembering, kind of tying it more with this whole idea of we don't get to have deep conversations with other people. We don't get also to rest. Intercorrelation between those things. We do not get to understand that it is necessary to talk about things that, quote unquote, oh wow, they are so deep, bro. Wow, it's so complicated what you're talking about. No. Things that make you think, nothing else. Things that make you think, that allow you to think, that are capable of stimulating you in any way. If we do not realize the necessity to have them, it is impossible to reach moments in which themselves, with the people that we enjoy talking normally, we get to discuss stuff of any sort along those lines. That's why it's complicated to find proper deepfulness in anything, because we are still, in that same sense, kind of missing the mark. Not that we are doing a bad show at everything, but that's just how I like to function, I guess. So yeah, that's my conclusion. Now for real, I don't have anything else to say. Thank you. Yeah. I guess truly nothing else to say. So let me do the procedures. Let me do the whole thing of find somebody to raid and go and raid. Blah 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 blah. So yeah, let me set that up, and still I can't do it on PC. I hate this so much, man. But I mean, if we have to verse ourselves on how I tend to carry myself when I am here, it will seem like I hate like I don't know 80% of life, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I say that I hate it, but it's all the same. Anyway, people, things. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay. The issue is I need to the name properly and type it myself. So okay, I found one. We have a target. We are so comfy. We have never been so Chin fucking Chin son. Dale, que a mí me gusta la Pepsi. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome, Chin. We were about to raid. So, Chin, no idea. I hope you had an. Shut the fuck up, man. I hope you had a nice time. I hope you had a nice stream. I hope you're well. Take a break if you need to do it. Drink water, get some rest, do everything else. Now for real. I was about to end, so it's so fucking over. It has never been so over. I don't know. Shut up. Don't worry. We don't have schizophrenia here. So yeah, it was to myself. I noticed I was going to say something completely unrelated, but the reality is there was something more important. So yeah. Don't worry. Also, welcome, Manul. Thank you. What was that sound? The follow? You don't like it, man? What the fuck? This is so, Ah, box. What the fuck did you change your? Anyway, welcome. Hope you're fine. What? Don't ask. I already did, man. Anyway, Chin, if you're still around, one time offer, pick anything. I guess I don't know. You're streaming, so you have to wipe. Makes sense. Makes sense. What's the word? Obsec. Makes sense. So yeah, I was saying, Jin, do not there is something interesting. There is some degree of depth that happens when, let's say like this, when yeah. The issue is I cannot hide it in any other. Don't worry, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. It's fine. It's fine. It's wonderful. It's magnificent. At least you understand the text, I guess. So, uh, don't worry. Anyways, I was trying to say, Chin, pick a topic, pick anything. I will try at the very least to fulfill your wish and talk about it. Okay, pick something that is TOS. I beg you, be a reasonable man and pick something that is within TOS so that you might not. Are you a cine? No, I just. That was I was trying to explain. Important thing that happens. You know? At least personally speaking, that's how I see it. Uh, it feels fucking weird to say it. What the fuck? Yeah. Anything that you feel like. Okay, what? There is a different, better way to say it. What is it? Do you have any questions, in? It's like so fucking sudden. It's too like random to ask somebody. Do you have any question? Can you talk about the ephemeral nation of how fake people treat love like a drug? Yeah, I can. The ethics. Shut the fuck up, Chin. No, you folks say something real and you have that and what I stop reflecting, Chin. Anyway, sorry. Uh, ah, but yeah, no, it's fucking shit. Shut up, Chin. Sorry. Don't get angry. Being is not fun. Even if it feels fun, it isn't fun. Feeling is a bit hard, so don't be mean. Thank you. How does it work? You deactivate TV. You ignore a TV. You make like it doesn't exist. Anyways, anyway, let me answer. Let me talk about it. I mean, I don't really have anything to say in like an objective way. I guess no, yeah, I do. I think it makes sense that we tend to make a commodity out of everything. Therefore, it isn't something so rare that we made even something that seems to be low a commodity. Even more the way in which we act nowadays. It's reasonable to make it look like law is just yet another concept. If everything that we have around ourselves is basic stuff, we can treat something like law as different. Therefore, it makes sense for you that, not for you, for the person who engages in. What the fuck? What the fucking golden beat. Also, thank you. Sorry. One day I will learn and I will change the stuff to be more capable of fitting the vibe instead of how it is. But it's so. You cannot say shit in chat. Shut up. Shut the fuck up. I wasn't reading anything. It was literally the sound, brother. It was literally the sound. I was starting to get into the mood, and it was the complete silent rape sound. Uh, uh, it's a. It's true. You hear less. It's only me who gets fucking deaf by that shit. It's so over. Okay. Anyways, don't worry. Let me continue. Let me continue. I was saying, people make a commodity out of everything. Unavoidably, people will make a commodity out of love. Issue is, we haven't properly understood what our feelings and whatever. So, we cannot really get used to how, well, some people are struggling with feeling things, understanding their feelings. Others are just chasing the high that is to have something resembling love. I mean, it isn't real love. If it is something so fleeting, it isn't real love, I feel like. But it's just how we work, how we like to work. It's it's an unavoidable thing, man. At the end of the day, we like to act in that way. So I don't know. I wouldn't. Yeah, that is too hopeless. I wouldn't say unavoidably people are going to act that way. The reality is, some people just have to mature a little bit more. You can have probably the argument of, yeah, some people never grow up from that phase, but just look somewhere else. That's what I that's what I will say on that. So yeah. Also, don't try to understand the signs. Just know that they exist. Yeah. Don't worry about it. Don't worry. But yeah, that's. uh, eh, I think I thought about it like one time. It's it's a related. Okay, you need you need to learn about semiotics. You understand why the signs are there. Learn about semiotics. There is something, I think it is quali sign or something like that. That's the explanation. Related to how everything is a symbol. A word itself is a symbol. A word is just a symbol in the place of the idea that we have. We utilize words to explain things. Therefore, unavoidably, when you use words, you're just using symbols. At the end of the day, any symbol could mean any other thing. We do just because of conventions use the ones we are accustomed to. So, it's just a different way of using symbols. The same thing. No ways. Also, good night, Jin. Thank you for the rate. That I don't know if I should have shouted out. I didn't. Sorry. I also can type it. I can type it in chat. I can. I'm not such a bad host. Sorry for forgetting. That thing about being a streamer is complicated because you forget to do your show. Me underscore. What the fuck do you have an underscore? I need a raid. Ah! Fucking hate this shit. Fucking hate it, man. Yeah. I know. I tried to start out, but I need raid instead. Don't worry. I'm just starting out. It's my first day of. Uh, to collab stream, give him a shout out. What the fuck? You're obeying? No, what? Disgusting, eh? My mic sounds good. Yeah, yeah. I have it in my hand, so it sounds better that way. I have to handheld the mic. It sounds better. But also, there it is. Shout out, Jin. How much do I have to fucking wait for the manual? Shout out. I'm going to do add stuff. Let's say like that. How much? Tell me. Newly no. I'm going to. If it is too long, I'm just delaying, brother. I love you. Okay, 2 minutes. 2 minutes. We have 2 minutes. Who doesn't have 2 minutes? Everybody has 2 fucking minutes, man. We like to act like, oh wow, yeah, I'm in business. No, man. 2 minutes. 2 minutes of your life. You spend 2 fucking minutes on it, on whatever shit. So, anyways, thank you. Good night, Chin. Good night, Pox. Thanks. I will not forget about that, and after that, I will fucking raid, and I will be down for today. But yeah, I'm just practicing reloads. What the fuck are you talking about? What? Good luck. With your life. Okay. Now, aluminum fire alarm. Yeah, that's good. I would recommend it. Probably. No. Manuli. Ah, thank God it wasn't in time. Also, how do people get? Do people snipe like very common usernames? That's how they get them? What a pain. Why doesn't it how to complete properly? I hate Twitch chat so much. Why do I need to this whole thing doesn't work towards PC towards phone, sorry. I one day it will work better. Anyways, thank you. Now for my final act I will write. I will have to check. I have to check if he's still alive. I guess he uses to stream a long time. So through the power of fate, we are going to believe that Ainsley is still alive. If he isn't, and I didn't check, I will feel bad. But at the same time, this is like an extra, an added combo, a completely unexpected event. So does it work? Is he live? Next question. We don't know that. We will find out. All of us together. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for everything. Which one? Probably. I don't know. I guess. I think tomorrow I have an exam even. Anyway. Anyway, that doesn't have anything to do with this. Anyway. Good one. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience. Thanks for watching, for listening, for everything. I think I lost the messages. I think so far. Always? I think it is. What's too many names? I cannot remember all of them. I cannot say all of them even less. So yeah. Thanks everyone for being here. That's the message. Thanks. Today I failed on say all the names, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, how it went? Now, right onto Ainsley playing something. I don't even remember what. Probably a shooter. So yeah, how it went? And now, for the real final message, no idea. Today I ate milanesa. Thank you.